are Daemonettes, SHOWY in Tides of Torment. As we move through the roster, let's go over what we get from not just the basic unit, but the Exalted version, because this video would be remiss without the Regiment of Renown, and that's for the latter. Let's dive into the mosh pit. Recruited for 800 gold equivalent and 200 upkeep are basic Daemonettes at 100 entities on Ultra with health of 6,800 between them. This is a low per entity figure and is in stark contrast with what Marauders get. Armor is 10 only, which means that even though they have physical resistance 20%, and beware, even the Kala is a demonic faction and low winds will inflict minus 10% physical resistance, still means just muffling 20% of physical resistance against 10 armor that'll block very, very little of that damage. That means being disturbingly close to 80% of all base and armor-piercing damage fully landing, and that's near 100% if it's any kind of magical attack. High damage versus low HP is a nasty combination for you. Leadership 75 is pretty decent for a low-end demon unit, and this is your lifeline against disintegration since they never flee. Speed 54 and Char Speed 58 are very high for infantry. Melee attack begins at the very healthy level of 40, or 8 better than Empire Swordsman, our mediocre baseline. Attack interval 4 seconds is the game-wide standard, no splash damage. Melee defense begins at 36. This is 4 better than basic Swordsman, so it is by no means bad. This means that despite the armor, Daemonettes are safer in melee than being picked apart at range, especially by low-tier ranged, because that's just insulting. Sheer volume of arrows is more of a threat to them than blob fights, though attrition will do them in too, just slower. Weapon strength of 36 is split base 12 and armor piercing 24. The wiki lists the reverse. The wiki is dead wrong about the current state of the game on this point. I double checked in-game, but I'd been playing Dakala lately regardless. This was just confirmation. It's not every day I correct a wiki. Go me. Charge bonus of 30 is very, very decent, and mass of 80 is not. They're easy to roll over, and magical chariots, rolling over them hurts, and not in a fun way. Traits are Causes Fear, Demonic Nature for immunity to psychology, and Disintegration when broken, Hide in Forest, Strider for no movement penalties or combat penalties in shallow water, and Devastating Flanker to turn 30 into 60 when hitting a unit from the side or rear. We now shift to the Exalted version, which takes 2 turns to recruit locally. Recruited for 1250 gold equivalent and 313 upkeep, a huge increase. It's still 100 entities, but 7,700 health between them, a significant improvement. Armor is 15, physical resistance is 20%, leadership 80, speed has remained the same. Melee attack of 48 is 8 better, but not only is each blow magical attack, it inflicts the Charmed contact effect. Charmed lowers enemy melee attack to the tune of minus 8. Attack interval remains 4 seconds, no splash damage. Now, this is in a faction that generates a lot of contact and area effect debuffs. Different debuffs will stack. Melee defense of 44 is also 8 better, and unless the enemy is immune to contact effects, it is effectively 16 better. Weapon strength of 50 is 14 better, which in percentage terms means 39% rounded up better. Moreover, the split of base 15 to armor-piercing 35 actually makes the tilt a little more toward armor-piercing, increasing the relative value of any percentile boosts to weapon strength in the future. Charge bonus 35 is 5 better, and mass is still the low 80. In addition, the unit gains Soul Scent, which increases armor-piercing weapon damage and melee attack for each unit fleeing or broken within a 50-meter radius up to the bonkers level of plus 50% AP damage and plus 20 melee attack. Literally situational, but great when it's working in your favor, and put simply, this is a fast unit that will chase down many frontline opponents. Now let's glance at the Regiment of Renown. The Bringers of Beguilement come in for 1450 gold equivalent and 363 upkeep. Differences from the base Exalted are leadership 90 in a rank 9 state, melee attack 59 is 11 better than a rank 0 regular, melee defense 54 is 10 better. These are what the regular Exalted unit gets at rank 9. Nothing else is different, except Perfect Vigor. So yeah, no biggie except the best buff in the entire game. Note that a certain Dakala temporary buff that makes a unit exhausted when it runs out will debuff a Perfect Vigor unit. I tried, so you don't have to cry doing it yourself. You're welcome. So yeah, in battle it can fight all day long, and as long as it isn't destroyed, or rather banished, it can fight at full strength forever. And if Charmed is working, that's effectively melee defense 62. This is why you'll see the Exalted and this ROR having much less damage done to them by pure melee opponents. In the Redline skills, it is once again a tale of two skill lines. Mortal Lords use Savage Bloodlust, offering at 3 pips armor plus 12 and charge bonus plus 12 flat. This is highly intriguing for Daemonettes. The armor boost is comparatively massive for nerfing damage against them, and if you can use their devastating flanker, 42 or 47 charge bonus going up to 84 or 94 is very juicy. Legion of Doom affects them since they're considered infantry, so rank 7 and above, including the Regiment of Renown, get armor plus 10 more, melee defense plus 5, and spell resistance plus 20%. In contrast, Demonic Lords, Dakala is included for these purposes. Demonic Inspiration at 3 pips offers only quote-unquote melee attack plus 6 and charge bonus plus 8 flat. Well, it doesn't make them more survivable, not this way. But this is carefully balanced. Charge bonus plus 8 is still quite strong, and melee attack plus 6 means it's plus 14, means it's really plus 14 on any charge for pure connecting with the enemy. Plus 6 in pitched combat means melee attack 46 at rank 0. Interestingly, they share Acolytes of Hedonism with other infantry if rank 7 or above for leadership plus 5, melee defense plus 5, and physical resistance plus 10%. Keep that last part in mind. In the main tech tree, the Prince's Protection adds plus 5% physical resistance. That means up to 25%, and you could get up to 35% with the Redline skills if rank 7 and above. Frustrated Affinity gives missile block chance plus 10% and melee defense plus 5. Granted, this is still an early tech, but a mere 10% missile block chance, and as written, I presume it's from the front only, is still a big enough boost to the resilience of a fast unit to be noticeable. Blessed Young, a name I remember from prior game versions, gives them Unyielding Assault, meaning no fatigue or spell or anything will reduce their melee attack rather than their damage. And speaking of damage, armor-piercing side of melee damage gets plus 3 per blow forever. So 24 becomes 27 for the normal version. Unending Depravity affects demons in general, plus 10% to have a Demon's Reforged effect, and plus 10% to hit points restored. This is a cheat death mechanic for demons, like the Dead Rise Again for vampires, and is heavily increased by high Slaanesh corruption, and can be hit by negative influences too, like low winds in an army. Not that you want to lose units, but it inevitably happens. Also, it helps if you won the battle. Demonic Wave gives upkeep minus 10% generally and global recruitment minus 1 turns, which means Daemonettes in 1 turn and Exalted in 3. So, when you can, recruit Exalteds locally. It's expensive, so also consider where you do this from. With all that said, how do we use Daemonettes? Here is the meat of the story, and I want to make this as simple as possible. The roster, even with the Kala, is built around Daemonettes. This roster has a lot of things that lack armor piercing, and a lot of what lacks that armor piercing is infantry. There is no equivalent to Swordmasters in this roster, but there are Daemonettes. That is, your heavy armor is completely divorced from your mass AP in a brawl. You have some nice fast cavalry and chariot options, but in terms of blanketing the side of a blob and chewing it apart, Daemonettes are often the superior option, and not much else can address that concern and not trigger charge defense versus large, which is a lot more common than expert charge defense. Do yourself a favor and watch out for that, by the way. Point being, their combat style is like Gore Herd on exotic mushrooms. The absolute last place they want to be is in the center of No Girl's Land getting shot. They want to weave and make their way to either the enemy's back, or failing that, the enemy's front, to wail away at it. You can accept a ton of situations where hitting the front is fine, but you must strike hard. When there's this little defense, offense really is the best defense and really your only defense. What you do have is mitigation. Middling melee defense helps. Physical resistance also helps, but once you get to the Exalted variety with Charmed, their ability to operate alone increases dramatically. But, like I said, the roster is designed around Daemonettes, meaning that basically every single combo your filthy mind can imagine works. It just works. Among these, and not limited whatsoever, any kind of poison-using unit, from Hellscourge's infantry to Seeker's cavalry, works fine. Spawn or War Shrines with Soporific Musk work fine. Devotees with Weakened work fine. Locust abilities increasing defense for them or reducing enemy melee defense for foes work fine. Glamour of Slaanesh, reducing melee attack, which can double up with Charmed, works fine. Chariots and Cavalry hitting the back of the enemy work fine. Chariots and Cavalry hitting first and giving the Daemonettes an exposed back works fine. Enemies frozen in place by Phantasmagoria works fine. Enemies softened up by Lash works fine. Occam's Mindrazor, remnants left from a pit of shades on a blob, Soul Grinders, Demonic Prince dive bomb attacks, Furies hitting the back line. It all works, and Exalted Daemonettes just make it work more. Now, the cost of this is that these dancing cannons are made of glass. The more basic the enemy, the more mass archer fire can do a lot to wreck them. Magic also does a number on them due to low HP overall. These are real concerns, and are only reduced somewhat with the Exalted versions, because almost all of their effective defense comes from being in melee, and some heroes are just so overpowered they'll lose the trades. Short of that, you have the core of your battlefield power. It's fast, thin-skinned, but it hits hard, and it really is your core. And I say hard because even the basic ones are like a great weapons unit with a 4-second attack interval and better melee attack than most, and it only gets better from there. Take care and have fun obliterating infantry lines. One unit turns and the rest becomes a snowballing avalanche of fear and joyous and bloody pursuit. The faction not having a Hounds unit stops being much of a problem. Not much anyway.